Good morning. Welcome to your 7 a.m. Thursday gentle class, and I'm Danielle. We're going to start in an easy seated position. So, whether that's cross legged or seated on a block or a blanket, knees bent, whatever feels good to you, find a place that you can sit comfortably for a few minutes. Once you find your comfortable seated position, we'll start to take some gentle movement through the shoulders, just doing a few gentle shoulder rolls. You can roll them backwards and forwards. You can scrunch your shoulders up to your ears and then release them down. Shrug them up again and release, bringing some blood flow into some areas of tightness. And then once you're feeling a little bit more loose in the shoulders, drop your right ear to your right shoulder and extend your fingertips out towards either side, down towards the mat. If you want to, you can use your right hand to gently draw your head down towards your shoulder without pulling or yanking on it, just gently guiding it downwards. Take one more breath here and release the head back to center. Maybe roll the shoulders out a little bit more before you drop your left ear to your left shoulder. Again, you have the option to use your left hand to guide your head down without pulling on it. But really, you're creating space between your right ear and your right shoulder by reaching those fingertips down. One more breath here. And let your head float back up to center. Roll out any leftover tension in the shoulders. And then we're going to move downwards and start to warm up the torso. So we're actually going to move in some torso circles, leading with your heart. Start by leaning forward, over to the side, back, other side. And you can make these circles as big or as small as you want, depending on how your body feels today. And then go the other direction. And when you feel even, come back to center. A lot of times in yoga, our arms get neglected, or we only use them for inversions and arm balances. So we're going to give our arms a little bit of love. Raise your right hand, bend at the elbow, and drop your hand between your shoulder blades so that it looks like this. And it's okay if your fingertips are touching your shoulders, but lift your head up. Your gaze should be straight out in front of you, and that action will press the back of your head into your arm and hopefully create a really wonderful stretch for you. As with anything, if it hurts, it's not yoga. If you need to make some minor adjustments, you can. Sometimes I do like to rest my opposite hand on that elbow just to guide it more towards the center line of my body. For some people, it can be really tempting to yank on it or press on it. But as long as you're being gentle with your body and just using that for guidance, you can do that. And we'll take 5 full breaths here. And release the arms back down to your sides. Shake them out if you need to a little bit. And then inhale your left arm up overhead. Bend at the elbow so that your fingertips drop down between your shoulder blades. Lift your gaze, lift your head. The back of your head is pressing into your arm. You can use that right hand on the elbow for guidance. I'll take 5 more breaths here. And release the arms back down. Shake them out. And moving into a gentle twist, place your right fingertips behind you, arms straight like you're creating a second spine for yourself. Sit up nice and tall. Bring your left hand to your right knee and start to look over your right shoulder. And it doesn't have to be a big, intense twist. But as you inhale, think about lengthening the spine. You might imagine that there's a string attached to the crown of your head and it's drawing you upwards. And as you exhale, you might relax a little bit into the twist. But let that breath bring you into the twist, not your arms, not your shoulders. And just letting the breath drop you into the twist. Take one more breath here and exhale it fully out and return to center and switch sides. Your left hand comes behind you. Sit up nice and tall. Right hand comes to your left knee. Inhale to lengthen your spine. Exhale to twist. Take one more big full inhale. Exhale, sigh it out of your mouth. And return to center. And we'll come into a child's pose. So if you want to, if you're cross-legged, you can simply rock forward onto your knees. You can take any other route you want to get to child's pose, though. As long as your knees come out to the sides of your mat, big toes come to touch, send your hips back to meet your heels, and let your hands slide forward on the mat. You can rest your forehead on the mat, or you can rest it on a block or a blanket or a pillow if that feels good. Use this time to check in with your breath. Just notice how it feels, how it sounds. Notice if there's areas of tension in your body that are causing your breath to catch or not flow very easily. And it's okay if the breath never changes throughout the course of your practice. If it starts short and shallow and it ends short and shallow, that's okay because that's your breath. That's what's keeping you alive right now. But throughout your practice, if you do notice areas of tension, maybe you can imagine that as you breathe in fresh, clean, oxygenated air, that you're breathing it in to that area of tension or even pain. And obviously, physically, our breath is only going to fill our lungs, hopefully, before it exits again. But if you imagine the breath going to that area of tension and then exhaling everything that you don't need, that dirty, used up air, maybe you can imagine that the tension leaves with it because you don't need to hold on to that. So from your child's pose, slowly come up onto your hands and knees. We'll come into a tabletop position. So your shoulders are stacked directly over your wrists and your hips are stacked over your knees. Fingers are spread wide and pressing into the mat. You can take a few organic movements if you want to hinge back and forth, starting to warm up the shoulders, warm up the hips a little bit. You can snake side to side, saying hello to another part of those hips and shoulders. And we'll take a few cat cows. So as you inhale, drop your belly, lift your tailbone, and draw the shoulders away from the ears so that it's not just a low back bend, but you're really engaging the whole back and bringing your gaze up slightly. As you exhale, round your spine, press your heart up towards the ceiling through the back of your back. Like you're really puffing it up, but relax your head and neck. And then inhale, come back to a cow. Exhale to cat. And we'll do one more. Inhale to cow. Exhale, cat. And then come back to a neutral tabletop with a flat back. From here, we're going to do thread the needle. So for thread the needle, shift your weight into your left hand, fingers spread wide, pressed into the mat like a starfish. Inhale your right arm up overhead. As you exhale, thread it through under your left armpit. And then you can choose if you want to stay high or if you want to drop that shoulder all the way down to the mat. And you've also got the option to slide your left hand forward in front of you. If you want to adjust the intensity of this, you can always place a block or a pillow underneath that shoulder so that you can still relax into it. On your next inhale, bring your left hand back under your shoulder, press yourself up, reach the right hand up to the ceiling one more time, and then set it down. Shifting weight into your right hand this time, lift up your left overhead, exhale, thread it through under your armpit. Decide where you want to rest that shoulder. If you want to come all the way down to the mat, you can. And slide your right hand forward this time. Bring your right hand under your shoulder. Press yourself up. Lift your left arm up to the ceiling again before setting it back down and coming into tabletop once again. And we're going to take a little side stretch. So I like to do this from child's pose. So you can bring your knees out wide again, toes touching. But when you slide your arms out in front of you, start to walk your hands over to the right side. And you don't have to go very far, just until you find that sweet spot where you've got a nice stretch, maybe through the arm, maybe through the side of the rib cage. Sometimes when I do this pose, I feel it in the hips. And then walk your hands back towards the center and over to the left side this time. And slide back to center. Press yourself up to tabletop position again on your hands and knees. And from here, you're going to step your right foot between your hands. If it doesn't quite reach, you can pick it up and scoot it forward so that your knee is stacked right over your ankle. And I usually keep my back toes tucked to add a little bit of stability. But if you want to release the top of your foot down to the mat, you can do that as well. And once you get your balance, we're going to rise up into a kneeling crescent. Arms up overhead, and then bring your hands to heart center. You might want to adjust this pose a little bit. If you feel like your hips are really twisting open, you want to think about drawing your left hip forward and maybe seating your right hip back a little bit so that both of your hip bones are pointed towards the front of your mat. And you will probably have quite a bit of engagement in both legs. But from here, we're going to take a little twist. But what we'll do is bring your arms up overhead. Big inhale, and then as you exhale, swing your right hand behind you, left hand comes in front, and you're twisting your torso towards your front leg, probably your right leg. Take one more breath here. Exhale, inhale, both arms up overhead again, and then exhale, release. Release both hands down to the inside of the front foot. Then you can toe heel your foot up to the front right corner of your mat so that you can take a little runner's lunge. You might need to adjust your back knee a little bit. That you can stay here on your hands. You can use a block if you like. You can rest your forearms on a block. You can rest your forearms on the mat. You can collapse as far down as you wish. Find your runner's lunge. And then find your breath. If you're folded forward and you have your forearms on the mat or your forehead on the mat, slide your hands under your shoulders, press yourself back up. If you're using any props like a block or anything else, set it aside so that you can toe heel your right foot back to center between your hands. And if you'd like a little bit of a hamstring stretch here, you can shift your hips, the weight in your hips, back over your back leg as you straighten your front leg, and then flex your foot so that your toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. I like to use a block here because my hamstrings are tight and I sit up pretty high, but I like to have my fingertips on something for stability. And if you don't have yoga blocks, anything works. A stack of books, a chair, a canned food from your pantry. You know, you can get creative with this. And some people like to sit all the way back on their back heel in this pose, and that works too, if that feels okay on your knee and your leg. For me, I like to stay lifted a little bit and focus on that hamstring stretch. And when you're ready, shift back into a low lunge. Send your front foot back so that you can shake it out, stretch it out. You can make little hip circles if you want. Before you come back to a tabletop. And this time, bring your left foot through between your hands. Scoot it up there so that your knee and your ankle are stacked nicely. Get your balance. Rise on up to kneeling crescent. Bring your hands to heart center for a moment while you check out your hips. See if you can draw the right hip forward as you seat the left hip back. And then bring your hands up overhead. Big breath in. Exhale. Bring your left hand behind you. Right arm comes in front. And you're twisting your torso towards your left leg. You might have a bit of balance going on here too. So you can always pick a point of focus, your drishti, to help you keep that balance. And then bring both arms up overhead again. Release them down to the inside of your front foot. Toe heel your left foot up to the corner of your mat. And find your runner's lunge on this side. Making any adjustments that you need. Using any yoga props that you need. And this side might be different than your right side. That's okay. Make this the best pose for you in this moment, this day, on this side of your body, because those things are so rarely ever going to be the same. You might need to take a little bit more time on this side, or you might need to take a little bit less. So you decide when you're ready to transition that you have time to stay here for a little while if you want. If you're ready to move on, you can bring your hands under your shoulders, press yourself up, and remove any blocks that are in your path. Scoot your front foot back to center. And if you choose to, shift your weight back, straightening the front leg, flexing the foot, the toes point up towards the ceiling, taking that hamstring stretch. If you have a tendency to hyperextend your knee, a trick that I like is to wedge a block or a blanket under the calf, and I still straighten my leg, but it keeps me from hyperextending that knee to a dangerous level. When you're ready, bend that front knee once again. Move any props out of your way and send that front foot back. Shake it out, stretch it out. Do little hip circles if you want. Anything that feels good. Maybe you want to get a nice little ab workout and bring your knee to your nose. Whatever floats your boat today. And then once you come back to your tabletop, we're going to move to seated. So easiest way for me to get there is to cross my ankles, sit back, and then swing your legs in front of you. But if you have a better tried and true way to get to seated, you use that. Everybody's a little different. And then once you have your legs out in front of you, straighten your left leg and set your right foot down on the outside of your left leg. So we're coming into a pretzel pose. You want to sit up nice and tall, move the fluff out from under your sit bones if you've got any, and give your knee a good hug. Now you could stay right here. If you're already finding a satisfying sensation in this pose, you can park it here. If you would like to bend your left leg and bring that heel in towards your body, you can do that. And if you'd like to change up the intensity even more, you can start to look over your right shoulder and add a little twist into this pose. You decide where you want to park for today. If you've chosen to take a little twist, rotate back to center, unfurl your legs one at a time. Stretch them out in front of you. Maybe point your toes, flex your toes, windshield, wipe your legs back and forth if that feels good. And we'll set up for pretzel on the other side, bending your left leg, setting your left foot on the outside of your right thigh. And give your knee a good hug. Sit up nice and tall. And decide where you want to park today. If you want to stay right here, you can. If you want to fold that right leg in, bringing your heel in towards your butt, you can. And if you want to start to take a little twist, that's another option. Looking over your left shoulder. You can take a little more time or a little less time here if you want. But as soon as you feel even with your other side and you feel balanced, extend both legs again, one at a time, out in front of you. Take any movement that feels good to release tension here. And we'll make our way onto our backs. You can do this however you want. Again, if you've got a tried and true way, I like to take hold of the back of my thighs and round my back, setting one vertebra at a time and then letting my knees come into my chest before I extend my legs. You find your way to come onto your back and then draw your right leg up into your chest, giving it a good hug. We're going to come into a figure 4 pose. So once you've got hold of your right leg, bend your left leg so that you're supporting your right ankle. Your right ankle is going to hit just above your left knee. And then you can start to bring your left toes off the mat, bringing your left thigh in towards your chest. So it's basically pigeon, only doing it on your back. If you want to straighten your left leg, you can, if that feels good for you. If not, you can just relax the left foot as you draw the thigh closer into your body. And find the sweet spot where you're not in pain, but you are feeling a beneficial sensation. If your mind starts to wander, if you get antsy, bring your focus back to your breath. You're always bringing fresh, clean air into your body and releasing whatever you don't need to carry with you anymore. And from here, before you release your left leg back down to the mat, we're going to take a supine twist, but keep your figure four legs exactly as they are. And simply drop the whole kit and caboodle over to the left. You can tee out your arms if you want, or do cactus arms. Take one more breath here. And then using your core, bring your legs back up to center. And then release your right leg up to the ceiling and then down to the ground again. This time, draw your left knee into the chest. Give it a nice hug. And then cross your left ankle just above the right knee. Start to draw that right leg in towards your chest, maybe taking a hold of the back of the thigh. Coming into your figure four. One more breath in your figure four, and then keeping the legs just the way they are, tee out your arms, and then drop your whole figure four formation over to the right side. You can bring your gaze over to the left to intensify that twist. Return your gaze to center. Return your legs to center. Release the left foot down to the mat. Maybe windshield wiper your knees one more time. If you want to bring one knee and then the other into your chest and give them a hug, you can. And take any last minute movement that you want before setting up for your final Shavasana. You can slide the legs down to the mat, letting your feet fall open. You can leave your feet on the mat with your knees bent and knocked together if that feels good on your low back. You can rest your hands down by your sides or on your belly. And when you find your best pose for Shavasana, let your arms and legs start to feel heavy. You have about 5 minutes left of this hour-long practice. However, I encourage you to stay here as long as your schedule allows. Take this time for yourself to rest and reset, to thank your body for the work that it does for you. You know, our feet carry us everywhere, and then they come onto our yoga mat and do even more work for us. So take the time to rest and reset. And I'll close class here. Thank you for joining me for a yoga class, for coming onto your mat today and taking the time out of your schedule to do so. And the light in me sees and honors and reflects the light in you. Namaste.